All right, so let's just do part 2 here, which is just kind of graphing and seeing what we know about some things here. So I'm going to start, let's do with this, actually let's start with this guy since he's here. And it might be written in function form. So this is a parabola, so you should just kind of remember from algebra that that either opens up or opens down, one of the two. And again, if you want to make an input-output chart to get some feel for what's going on, you can, like if you sub in 0, you get 0, sub in 1, 1 squared is 1. Don't forget your negatives, and negative times a negative is positive 1. So you can kind of see that symmetry. Negative 2 squared is positive 4. So your 3 and negative 3 are going to be 9s and kind of do that. And so if I graph this, the vertex is at 0, 0, and I go over 1, up 1, negative 1, 1. And this is one of our key functions that 2, 3, 4. Eventually, you just kind of need to have memorized negative 2, positive 4. A parabola, this has nothing fancy on it. So it goes through 0, 0, and 1, 1. And again, we'll get there later. That's not the point of this. All right, so there's my graph. And so what are some key things to look for? Well, like X-intercepts are a big thing. This is at 0, 0. So that's actually an X and a Y-intercept. It crosses the X-axis and the Y-axis because it's crossing through the origin. So that's my intercepts. Let's look at symmetry. Well, you can look. Do you see how there's like it folds over here like it's a mirror image? It reflects over the Y-axis. So I know it has symmetry over the X-axis because, again, I don't know, let's pick this point. This is what, 2, 4, and over here it's a negative 2, 4. So the Y's stay the same, right? It's the X's that become opposite when it reflects over the Y because what used to be a positive 2 is now negative 2. And we can test that. All right, so we're saying, what happens if instead of a positive X I shove in negative? Well, if I shove that in and I square it, I end up getting back to where I started from. So that means there's symmetry around the Y-axis because I subbed in the opposite of X, which would be what would happen if you're going over the Y. And so there's some symmetric with the Y-axis. Now, I mean, you can look at the graph. There's no rotational symmetry. There's no symmetry over the X. I mean, you can do the test if you want, but I don't know what the point is. Like, oopsie, sorry. If I shove a negative here, I mean, if I bring the negative over, they don't look the same. And then if I shove in a negative in both places, bring the negative over. So again, I think just looking at the graph, you can tell a lot without, I don't know, subbing in. But you can sub in if you want. Sorry, let's look at this guy. I'll get another cough drop ready. All right, this one right there. This is one of our key functions as well. And again, you might see it like this. And again, I would make an input-output chart to kind of, you know, figure out what's going on here. So maybe 0, 1, 2, 3, maybe negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. 0 cubed, 1 cubed, 2 cubed, 3 cubed, 3 times 3 is what, 27. Now notice a negative times a negative times a negative is a negative, negative, negative. So we don't really get, you know, the same thing there. Right, and you should have this memorized. This is going to kind of look like this. It's going to kind of bend, right? And this is a cubic function that we're going to have a lot this semester. So it's kind of bend. It's not a parabola, right? It's not x squared. It's cubic. It's doing that. So at 0, 0, there's a dot. 1, 1, there's a dot. And let's see, negative 1, negative 1. So negative 1, negative 1. And then at 2, I'm kind of way up here at 8, and at negative 2, way down here at a negative 8. So it's going to kind of come, I'm not very good at drawing that, but kind of like that. Maybe a little flatter there. So something like that. Okay, so there's my graph. All right, again, if I sub in 0, notice I get 0, 0. That's both an X and a Y intercept at the same time. And symmetry, well, it doesn't reflect over the Y, right? Like if I fold this over, it doesn't fold over. If I fold down, like this isn't reflecting down, so it doesn't have over the X-axis or Y. But notice if I rotate it, like does that have some type of, you know, rotational? So if I put a pin here and I spun it around, you know, would it look the same? And then if I keep spinning, would it look the same? And so it seems like it has rotational symmetry. So again, we can test. For rotational, you'd sub in a negative for both. So I'm going to put a negative in there. And instead of y, we're going to put a negative over here. A negative times a negative times a negative is a negative. And notice when I either divide by a negative or multiply both sides, I actually get what I started with again. So I know it has rotational symmetry. But again, you can graph it and look. You don't need to test it. And I know the others aren't going to work, but, you know, I can do them. If I shove in negative here, I get negative x, and the negative stays cubed, okay? If I shove in this guy, where am I at? I'm going to have, what, a negative y on one side, what, x cubed on the other. I can bring the negative over, not the same. So there's no, you know, symmetry on the x or y axis, but there is rotational. And again, I don't know that you need to do these. We'll do stuff with this later to test even and odd functions. I don't know if you really need to know it for symmetry. I'm sorry. I'd just graph it and look. You can tell. But that's up to you. And again, if you're not sure, like, which one tests as x and which is y, you don't really need to memorize it. If x is positive here and you flip it over here, x is negative, this is symmetry around the y-axis. And if, let's see, your y values used to be positive and now you're testing to see if your y values go down here negative, that's over the x-axis. So I don't really memorize them, I just kind of think about it. All right, I think that's about it in that section. We don't need to do the square root of x. I think you guys got it. But again, quick and easy section. Do this, get it done, and then keep plugging away on chapter 1. All right, I know chapter 1's a bear, but we need to get through that review so that later when we need those concepts, it's not so hard. So, all right, take care, you guys. Bye-bye.